What's going on, everybody? It's a Creative Fro checking back in with episode 3 of the Fireside Tech series, and today we're going to be going over Final Cut Pro versus Premiere Pro. Before we dive into today's video, I want to remind you guys to hit the red subscribe button if you have yet to already, and also turn the notification bell on too as well, because we have lots of videos coming and we don't want you guys to miss out. So now I'm just going to run over some of the reasons why I decided personally Final Cut Pro over Premiere Pro. One of the reasons why I ended up choosing Final Cut Pro was simply because I was always using the Mac desktop and I had iMovie on there before. So I never had experience with any kind of Adobe products at the time. Fast forward 2 years later, I was watching YouTube videos and I was really wondering how I could take my editing skills to the next level, because I was realizing iMovie had some limitations. I ended up choosing Final Cut Pro and I have still been using it for about 2 years now almost. It just kind of made sense for me to make that transition using Final Cut Pro, because I wasn't into Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator or any kind of the Creative Cloud apps. Final Cut Pro was something that naturally came easy to me, and I decided to use it more than Premiere Pro. I used Premiere Pro only a couple times, but from my experience, I found I was having a hard time getting the rendering to go through. I really found the layout kind of confusing, and it just wasn't set up like Final Cut Pro, so I shied away from it a little bit more. One of the deciding factors for me was the cost. At the time, I was only making videos for myself. What I wanted to do was just pay a one-time fee and not have that monthly subscription. Final Cut Pro ended up being $300 total, so I just had the one-time $300 payment. For Premiere, you'd have to get the Adobe Creative Cloud, and that gives you an option to choose the package, so you could get Premiere Pro, Photoshop, and all that stuff. I just decided not to choose that because I was a little bit overwhelmed with the options personally, and since I didn't really study any of that in school, I didn't feel comfortable going with that. Just iMovie's layout was almost identical to the Final Cut Pro layout too as well. Now in the Final Cut Pro 10.4 update, they've allowed the capability of iMovie files to be completed inside of Final Cut Pro now, so they work seamlessly together. Another reason why I like Final Cut Pro is the ability to edit 4K footage. I create all my 4K files into a proxy file, which really saves up the space. My render times are now super fast, and I really like just the speed of it. It's not really taking away from my editing flow. I can get an idea and do things in a snap of a second and not have to wait forever for the render times. The Final Cut Pro software itself is actually optimized for the Mac ecosystem, and what that means is when I'm on the go, say I'm on a plane and I'm editing footage, I can edit 4K footage off my hard drive without any problem of rendering. Also, my battery won't drain as fast too as well. Another thing I really enjoy about Final Cut Pro is the Apple Motion templates. And now what this gives me the ability to do is I can go into other programs such as Motion VFX or anywhere that has Apple, maybe like transitions, titles and stuff like that, and I can go and download those templates, import them into Final Cut Pro, and then within the timeline, I can take those titles and customize them within the app, and I don't have to take it into a second app, whereas Premiere Pro, if you want to do any extra effects, you have to take it in After Effects. So I just like staying on the one platform and just having everything right there. And yeah, it just makes my editing flow a lot more smoother. Since we're talking about Apple Motion, that's another app you can get on top of Final Cut 2 as well. Now, I got this a few months back, and what I use Apple Motion for is just to customize my own titles, transitions, and stuff like that. So now I'm just getting more into practicing how to make my own customized templates for Final Cut Pro. Another app that I like with Final Cut Pro is called Compressor. And so what Compressor does is it takes your file and compresses it down into a smaller file. That way it's easier to send to clients, to keep on your computer, so you're not taking up so much space on your hard drive. Just overall a good way to save some space. Another plugin that I really enjoyed was a Color Finale, and that's almost comparable to DaVinci Resolve, I believe it's called, for the Adobe platform. And what it does, it gives me the ability to color grade my footage and really get the look I want to get in my image. So this all being said, I haven't really had much experience with Premiere Pro, and I'm not opposed to using it in the future. I just find Final Cut Pro is working efficiently for me, so if it's not broken, don't fix it. And say you guys are maybe on the fence of you want to choose Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro. Maybe you can go through some of the options that I did. You can weigh out the cost. You can think about, are you going to use other Adobe platforms? Maybe I should just get Premiere Pro and just work with that ecosystem. Or say you don't want to choose any of those options and you want to edit for free. Check out the video we posted last week right up here, and you'll learn some tips on how to use a free editing software program. If anyone here is a Premiere Pro user, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know why you chose Premiere Pro. Share this video if you know anybody who's on the fence about Final Cut Pro and Premiere Pro. Like this video if you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week with episode 4 for you guys. It's the Creative Fro, and I'm out.